It was the morning of November 29, 1970. The air in western Norway was biting cold, winter creeping into the valleys. A father and his two young daughters were hiking through the Isdalen Valley just outside the city of Bergen. The valley was steep, rocky, and eerily quiet, with jagged cliffs casting shadows across the snow-dusted ground. The place already carried a sinister reputation. Locals called it Death Valley, not because of crime, but because of its grim history. Over the years, several people had fallen to their deaths while climbing its slopes. Others had come here to end their own lives. The name alone was enough to make many Bergen residents avoid it. As the family walked, they caught a sharp, unusual smell, like something chemical mixed with smoke. Curious, they followed it up a narrow trail, and there, partially hidden among boulders, they stumbled upon a sight that would haunt them forever. The burned remains of a woman lay sprawled on the ground. Her body was charred, the flesh blackened. Around her were strange, almost staged objects. 2 plastic bottles that reeked of gasoline, an umbrella, a broken water bottle, prescription pills, and pieces of jewelry neatly arranged beside the corpse. Terrified, the father rushed back down the trail to alert the police. He could not have known then that what he discovered would spark one of the most enduring mysteries in European history. The mystery of the Isdal Woman. When Norwegian police arrived, they were immediately struck by the unusual details. This was no ordinary accident. The woman had clearly been burned, but investigators quickly realized something chilling. Her lungs contained smoke. She had still been alive when she caught fire. Scattered around the body were seemingly random belongings, but every single piece of clothing had its labels and tags carefully cut away. The personal items had no identifying marks. Whoever this woman was, someone had gone to great lengths to erase her identity. Or she had done it herself. There was also the matter of the jewelry. Rings, earrings, and a watch were laid out beside her body, not worn. Why would someone remove them and arrange them so deliberately? Police at first considered suicide, but doubts arose almost immediately. Why would a woman travel all the way to an isolated valley, ingest pills and alcohol, set herself on fire, and also take the time to remove every clothing label? This was beginning to look like a carefully orchestrated death. In the following days, investigators searched railway stations across Norway. They found something that deepened the mystery. 2 suitcases in a Bergen train station locker linked to the woman. Inside the suitcases were expensive clothing, but again, all labels removed. Several wigs neatly styled, cosmetics and luxury items, prescription creams, 500 Deutschmarks in cash, and a notebook filled with cryptic codes. The codes turned out to be records of her travels. Numbers and letters that matched hotel dates and destinations across Norway and Europe. The most bizarre detail? Just like the clothing, even the inside of the suitcase had no identifying tags. Labels had been carefully cut out. It was as if this woman existed, but did not want to exist on paper. As police began piecing together her movements, they uncovered an astonishing fact. The woman had used at least 9 different false identities while traveling across Europe. She went by names such as Fenella Lorch, Claudia Nielsen, and Vera Schlosseneck. She gave different nationalities: Belgian, German, French. Sometimes she claimed to be a traveling saleswoman, other times an antiques dealer. Hotel staff and shopkeepers remembered her vividly. She was elegant, always well-dressed, sometimes wearing wigs, often speaking multiple languages. Witnesses said she could converse fluently in German and French and had passable English. Some thought she spoke Flemish too. One hotel worker recalled her sitting in the dining room, reserved and distant, sipping wine alone. Another remembered her meeting with men, always discreet, never affectionate, more like business discussions than personal encounters. Who was she really? A spy, a criminal, a fugitive, or simply a troubled woman living under assumed identities? Hotel records reveal the Isdal Woman spent her final days in Bergen. On November 23, 1970, she checked out of the Hotel Hordeheimen, looking visibly nervous. The staff remembered her because she was pale, appeared unwell, and seemed burdened by 2 heavy suitcases. A few days later, hikers would find her lifeless body in the valley. The autopsy revealed she had ingested a lethal dose of sleeping pills and alcohol, but traces of smoke in her lungs showed she had still been breathing when the fire consumed her. Her death was ruled a probable suicide, but the strange circumstances cast doubt on this conclusion. Could someone else have forced her to take the pills? Could she have been incapacitated, then set on fire to hide evidence? The questions multiplied. The 1970s were the height of the Cold War. Norway, a NATO member, was strategically important, particularly because of its proximity to the Soviet Union. Bergen, the very city where the woman died, was home to top-secret naval testing facilities, including experiments with advanced weaponry. The theory quickly emerged. Was the Isdal woman a spy? Her use of false identities, her fluency in languages, her coded notes, her mysterious meetings with men, all seemed to point in that direction. Norwegian intelligence quietly looked into the case, though much of their involvement was kept out of public records. Some speculated she was working for the Soviets, keeping tabs on NATO operations. Others suggested she might have been a Western operative monitoring Soviet activities. On the other hand, skeptics argued it could have been a case of suicide. Perhaps she was a lonely woman who created elaborate identities to mask her depression, ultimately ending her life in a dramatic fashion. But if so, why the wigs, the codes, the labels cut from clothing? Why the jewelry placed beside her body like a ritual? Despite the bizarre clues, the investigation soon lost momentum. Interpol was contacted, but no one reported a missing person that matched the woman's description. Her fingerprints were checked against international databases, no matches. Witnesses were interviewed across Norway and Europe. Dozens remembered seeing her in hotels and on trains, but none could provide her true identity. The case grew cold, leaving only speculation. Decades later, in the 2000s and 2010s, the mystery was revived. Advances in forensic science allowed scientists to re-examine evidence. Her teeth were analyzed with isotope testing, suggesting she had grown up in Germany near the French border, possibly in Alsace. Her dental work was expensive and uncommon, indicating she came from wealth. Forensic testing on her jawbone further narrowed her possible upbringing to Central Europe. Still, no definitive identification was made. In 2016, Norwegian police reopened parts of the case, releasing photos and forensic sketches of the woman to the public. Thousands of tips poured in, but none solved the mystery. Today, the Isdal woman lies buried in Bergen, in a simple grave, marked only by a number. To this day, no one knows her real name. Her story has captured imaginations worldwide. Books, documentaries, and podcasts have all revisited the case, painting her as everything from a Cold War spy to a tragic wanderer seeking to erase herself from the world. The case continues to raise unsettling questions. How can a person travel across multiple countries under false names and never be discovered? Who was she meeting in those hotels? And why, after decades of searching, has no family ever come forward to claim her? The mystery of the Isdal woman remains unsolved. A ghost story from the Cold War era, frozen in time. When the hikers found her in that lonely valley, they could not have known they were uncovering a story that would endure for over half a century. The Isdal woman's identity may be lost, but her case continues to fascinate because it touches on something deeply human. The fear of being erased, of existing without a name, of living a life that no one can ever truly trace. Was she a spy silenced by her enemies, a double agent who knew too much, or simply a troubled woman who built a labyrinth of false identities only to burn out in the most literal sense? We may never know, but the mystery endures. Whispered in Norway's valleys, examined in police archives, and kept alive in the minds of all who hear her story, the Isdal woman remains, to this day, Norway's greatest unsolved mystery.